Hello, everybody. It is Dee and Renee, and we are back this week, and we are going to be talking about eggplant this week. So I am down in sunny Palm Desert, where we have a clinic down here, and Dee is up in Medicine Hat, up in Alberta. And we love to bring you new recipes, things that inspire you to be creative, to try new things. And so that's what we do every week. So if you wouldn't mind hitting the share button, and we love all of our clinics that share and really blast our broadcast out there. And Dee is passionate about creating fun new recipes. In fact, she tells me that she dreams about recipes. So how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I think about recipes sometimes at the most obscure time. Sometimes I will see a billboard and it inspires. Sometimes it's the Food Network that inspires, where I see something and say, uh-oh, no, I know how to make that better. Or I really do sometimes just dream about food. I actually have a spiralized notebook beside my bed, so that if I happen to wake up and roll over, then I just jot it down if I have a good idea so I don't lose it.
I love that. I do that with business ideas. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So
yeah.
Let's pop up. And by the way, eggplant is totally one of my favorites. And so if you are interested in getting this week's recipes and you don't get our weekly newsletter, all you have to do is type in the word newsletter in the comment section. And it's going to take you through a two-step process. First, you're going to say yes, that you are okay receiving our Facebook message, and then you are going to hit the button that says subscribe and go through the process. So tell us about this. I think eggplant was one of the first things I kind of learned how to do. And I know that there's a process of, I don't know if you do this, but I learned a process of salting the eggplant and letting it sweat and kind of getting the bitterness out of it. So is that what you do, Dee?
Yes. Yeah, I do it every time I use eggplant, and especially when you see a recipe just as pictured, you're actually making that eggplant sweat is also going to help your flour stick to the eggplant as well. So it has a dual purpose. It helps to take out the bitterness, and then it helps the eggplant sweat a little bit. So it's great for some natural moisture. Yeah.
So in this recipe, what are you are you baking this?
Yes. So I am mimicking a traditional so lots of times eggplant, chicken parm, you'll see chicken parm recipes with eggplant, and lots of times it's fried or deep fried or prepared in various ways such that usually it has a breading on it. And so what you see pictured is actually the potato puree used as my breading. You could also grind up any of the ideal protein chips, anything from Southwest cheese curl to herb and garlic, your Doritos, your Dorados, they will all work. And what you simply do is you grind it to a fine powder. The potato is already in the fine powder. You divide it into two. And so you sweat your eggplant, you dredge it in your crumbs of choice, and then you give it a bath in beaten egg, and then you dredge it again in the crumbs of your choice, and then bake it. And you bake it 8 to 10 minutes per side. It is gorgeous. And so just as pictured, you could top that with a little olive oil and garlic brushed on. You could do the faux feta cheese that I love to make. I'm a little bit obsessed with the faux feta. I know you can probably tell, but it's really turning into a great addition on top of so many of these recipes. Or you can make an awesome tomato and basil sauce and spoon that over, throw it back in and broil it for a few more minutes. And you can also top that with a little bit of the faux feta as well. So I do have another picture of that. So it's really, you can take a base recipe and you can turn it into multiple versions. You could still do a chicken parm with the tomato sauce, but of course I'm using the faux feta instead of real Parmesan cheese. But phase 4, obviously, you can add your parm. So there is it with my tomato basil sauce with a little of the faux feta baked on. And so you just simply broil it for a few more minutes, and it's really hearty. It's what's really interesting about eggplant is I almost describe it as it's meaty, if that makes sense. Like it's really filling. It is like putting your fork into a bite of meat. So it's like once made into the dish, as you see there, it is like it's a one pan dinner complete. So really satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah, as we all know, I grew up vegetarian, so we, would make like lasagna with eggplant or zucchini and a variety of different veggies, and of course, there's lots of ratatouille. And last year we did an eggplant show. So if you go, scroll through all the videos, you'll see way back like last summer when we were doing eggplant. And so Dee, tell us why you chose eggplant this week.
So right now where I live in the local greenhouses, the eggplants are in abundance and they're so young and tender. So I don't like any of my veggies particularly overgrown. So I like things like eggplants and zucchinis on the smaller side. And so right now they're a little bit smaller, a little bit user-friendly as well. So about 3 ounces of eggplant equals about a cup. So I can buy a nice, really firm little medium eggplant. It'll give me 2 cups of veggies for $1 where I live.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And it's
that's not happening.
I know, but it's organic and it is so fresh. And I guess it's just even just the feeling of them, they have no blemishes, they're firm, they smell fresh. And so over the next few weeks, you're really going to see items that I choose is what's going to be in abundance, available to me really fresh. So yeah, we're going to roll with that.
Well, I love Mediterranean food, and baba ganoush is definitely, it's more probably like Middle Eastern,
yes.
But definitely a delicious dip. And so tell us what your inspiration is for this.
Well, the weather's beautiful, makes you want to sit outside, makes you want to visit, makes you want a lovely cold drink in your hand. And to me, again, it comes back to kind of that socializing food, that potluck food, that really, I love when you just have a table full of options that you can have. And it's so simple and good. It's kind of ridiculous. And I mean that in a really good way. But baba ganoush, first of all, I want to know why it's called that, because I love the name.
You didn't look that up?
I didn't actually. I was going to. And it just got away from me. But I love that for one. And I love that it is so simple that it's literally eggplant, roasted garlic, and oil. Boom, done. You can add a little bit of salt and pepper if you want to. But then once you have that base recipe down pat, you could turn that into anything you want. And so I did another one, which we'll see, that's basically got some heat and some fresh herbs in it. And it was the bomb, like so good. And then you can make your own homemade. Now I can't make traditional pita bread because sugar and let the dough rise, but we can make some really wicked flatbread and crackers out of so many of the IP soups or potato puree. And of course, IP itself has so many low carb chips that you can use for dipping as well. But I really like using the potato puree or the chicken's flatbread or crackers just because you get so much from one pack. And so what you see pictured there is some homemade herbs flatbread and a cup of traditional baba ganoush and roasted garlic. Like garlic should just be its own food group. It's so good. And I think we have some pictures of roasted garlic as well. And the really cool thing about roasted garlic, you know, your phase 1, you're just going to roast it. There we go. We're just going to roast it on its own. Phase 4, you can drizzle some olive oil over that and roast it with the olive oil on it. But both ways, it tastes fantastic. And again, really low maintenance. You just cut the ends off and put it in you put it in a covered container to roast it in about 30 minutes. It's beautiful like that, and you can use it in anything. So.
Yeah, it is. Garlic is, as we know, it's a prebiotic. It's great for your digestion. Yeah. It makes dishes taste delicious. And so anyway, if you guys are on here live, give us a hashtag live. And for everybody that had a fabulous Memorial Day weekend, I say give us is there like a barbecue emoji? I don't know.
Hi, Joelle.
Let's say hello to Joelle and of course Suzanne.
Hello, Suzanne.
And everybody out there that's joining us. So I do want to share one thing before we go on, and this was brand new to me. We had some Italian visitors, and she's an amazing cook, but this little box here is called Pommi, P-O-M-I tomato sauce. And literally this is really the only thing I've ever seen that all it has is tomatoes in it. I mean, and it's delicious. It's easy. It's in a box. It's kind of like, broth. And it's from 100% fresh Italian tomatoes. I thought it was the most delicious thing. It has no artificial ingredients, no preservatives, salt, gluten-free, BPA-free, GMO-free. I thought it was just a really great product. And I want to say they got it at Sprouts. I'm not sure, but just like she finds it in her local grocery store. She lives in Arlington, Virginia. So we had a wonderful Memorial weekend. We had tons of great food, fresh food, delicious. It was awesome. So yes, it was amazing. And Joelle says they are fantastic. Good. There's someone I was like, this is awesome. I got to share this here. And I saw that you were making dishes with tomatoes. So yeah. Anyway, all right. So remember, if you are interested in getting the recipes here, just type in the word newsletter. If you have not, or you are not subscribed to our newsletter, make sure you just do the 2-step process. So these look like the chips that you put with the baba ganoush. So,
yeah, so
I've never done this before. I know to you it's like no big deal, but would this be something I would think was no big deal?
Yeah, it's so simple. So once you do it, it can be a little bit daunting at first, but the great thing about these types of flatbreads, you can make it a flatbread, you bake it longer, it just turns into a cracker. And that's the absolute truth. And you can make them with just water. You could put a touch of baking powder if you wanted, but you don't need to. You can use a little bit of egg white if you want like a softer flatbread instead of a cracker. And one of the things that I'm a big fan of, so I love fresh herbs. I really love fresh herbs. And right now, again, where we live, the greenhouses have them in abundance. And so I don't like them to go to waste. And so I'm using them in my fresh salads. I'm using them, in another eggplant dip. And then I love chopping up the fresh herbs and using them in things like the flatbreads or omelets or like anywhere where you can put them in. And so on one of the eggplant dips that I did, I used a lot of fresh herbs. And so I did the exact same flavoring in the flatbread. So it's so simple. You just mix it up. You spread it really, really thin, paper thin on parchment paper, pop it in the oven, and 8 minutes to 10 minutes for flatbread, 12 to 15 for crackers.
And what temperature?
350.
350. Awesome. Yeah, one of these days I'll do that.
And I like it. It's kind of like in between the flatbread and cracker. Like I like that little bit of chewiness, but not totally crisp. And it's so good for scooping up your dip. And then I love the actual fresh herb pieces in it. So, I mean, if you only have dried, it still works, but the fresh just adds way more texture. So, yeah.
And another thing that you can do is, and we did a lot of that this week and over the holiday, is just using, things like endive as scoopers and cucumbers and celery sticks. I mean, really, we do miss those crackery things, but once we get used to fresh veggies, I actually really just crave the freshness and the kind of the hydration that are in like my cucumbers and celery. So yeah. I do.
Yeah.
Okay. So this, I love me some grilled, obviously Dee taught me how to grill. So I grilled some more things this weekend. It was awesome. So we've got some grilled eggplant here.
Yep. And I wanted to just show you, the grilled eggplant steaks in a couple of steps. So the first one is just as you see it, grilled eggplant steaks. And so you might see recipes where they tell you to cut them into 3-inch steaks. I personally, for me, that's too thick. I like about 1 inch because I like things to cook. When I'm grilling veggies, I like it to be done pretty fast, if that makes sense. So when you do about a 1-inch eggplant steak, it's literally 3 to 4 minutes per side and you're done. If you are on phase 1, you could use your daily allotment of olive oil, or you can completely skip it. You don't need oil to grill your veggies. You can still season them with your favorite spices. If you're in phase 4, then you can be really generous with your oil if you desire. Again, you can brush them before grilling, or you can simply drizzle over after. So there's not a right or wrong. So that's what I love about veggies and grilling too. Before or after is awesome. And so the first picture, when they're just plain, it's a great side. It's a great veggie side if you're having other protein. And now this picture, I just turned it into a complete meal. So I added my fresh chopped salad with herbs and then my faux feta tofu cheese over top. And so my protein is the faux feta. Now in this picture, I actually only used a couple ounces worth of the faux feta, and I still enjoyed a lovely little piece of side chicken grilled with that. So super satisfying meal. Lots of color, lots of texture, lots of freshness. And so just some examples on how you can take a base recipe and really turn it into many, many things. So I think that's important too. Options.
No, and one of the things that we started with last year when we first started our show was just taking each kind of like phase 1 vegetable, and Dee, made her favorite recipes with it, so that we started with just the basics of learning different veggies, and I think that, as we've talked about many times, variety is the spice of life. And we have to have these things in our everyday life if we are going to actually, sustain our weight loss. And Dee, I'm going to let you keep talking here because I realize that my computer's not plugged in and it's going to turn itself off.
Okay. Okay. So a couple more things I just wanted to touch on. So like in the previous pictures, when you've seen the pictures of the handmade crackers, instead of ones that are pre-done, I sometimes get to a point where I too, when I am trying to eat low sugar or low carb, packets are really convenient and they serve a really great purpose. But I sometimes crave more so just the whole food. And so taking something like the potato puree packet and turning it into a flatbread gives me the satisfaction that I am not eating out of packets even when I am, if that makes sense. I do sometimes just get tired of eating the packets as designed, and that's what really actually started prompting me really cooking and creating with Ideal Protein packets back when I had my first experience with IP in 2011. I really, really like traditional food, home cooking and baking. And so those were just ways to really achieve that. So yeah, there's Miss Renee. Are we frozen up or are we okay? We might have lost her a little bit. Can everybody hear both of us or just one of us? Oops. We might have lost her again. Does anybody have any questions so far on our eggplant show? Or does anybody have their own creative ways or their most favorite recipes, how you've created it? Actually, once you type those in the comments too, Renee can see that, but I can't right now. So we'll have to wait till she comes back. So a few more things that eggplant is great for. So you can use it just like zucchini in an eggplant lasagna. It's wonderful like that. You can do an eggplant egg bake. So one dish protein and veggie egg bake is awesome. In our files, we have a really good eggplant ratatouille that uses the mac and cheese, which is really delicious and satisfying also. So that one is a lot of fun and to make. And I say fun just because there's lots of color. So one of the only drawbacks that I find when I'm creating with eggplant is that I love to pair it with tomatoes. Tomatoes and eggplant are a couple of my favorite ingredients together. And so you really have to be mindful of tracking in your journal, because this week I used up my 4 cups of occasional veggies in a snap with the eggplant and tomato combination. So just watch your journaling. Phase 4, you have a little bit more wiggle room, but phase 1, 2, 3, just keep track of that.
That's right. Yeah. So thanks you guys for being patient. That was really silly of me. Let's say hi to Josephine. She says she loves eggplant.
Hello, Joe.
Karen from Iowa says ratatouille.
Woohoo! Hi, Karen.
So yeah, you know, again, a lot of this is really just trying some new things and understanding that if you really permanently want to keep your weight off, you really are going to have these things on a continuing basis. So finding yummy recipes, you know, this needs to replace eating lasagna all the time or you know, pastas and that kind of thing. So learning to, you know, thinly slice your veggies and grill them and making, like we did the zucchini lasagna, which was amazing. And those kinds of dishes that, you know, that we recreate things that we love. Right.
Yeah. And then you crave them and you crave the freshness and yeah,
I know it's hard to envision that, but really you will.
You will. You really will. Or like I'll go, so you know, when I don't like eating the same vegetables 2 or 3 days in a row. I personally really don't. And or I don't like to just, like, I love salad, but I don't just like to eat just salad, like just lettuce leaves. And so I find that if I don't have a good variety for a few days, then, by day 3 or 4, I'm really getting my act together to make sure that they get all in. And in the spring, we're still in spring, we're not till summer yet, but the nice weather, I don't crave. A lot of people say that this is the hard time of the year for them. And I just find it so much easier to eat healthier at this time of the year. Just the fresh and abundance of veggies. I love grilling season. I love to sit outside when we get the chance to really enjoy our meals. So that's another thing. Really taking the time to just sit and enjoy versus eating on the go, eating in the car. I know it's not always possible. But I'm even willing to have my sit-down dinners a little bit later in the evening also, not super late, but just to adapt to actually having that time to really sit and enjoy and digest the meals versus just wolfing something down. And in my house too, like I can get my hubby and my boys to barbecue as well. So then that even makes it more enjoyable. If I'm making the sides and they're making the main dishes. So that's always a plus too.
Yeah. So this is a really nice comment. Josephine says she loves how we, try different things. She often adds them to her grocery list after watching the show. And she doesn't think she's tried eggplant since she tried to make it for her son's birthday party. Well, he probably didn't love eggplant for his birthday party, but
awesome,
maybe the adults did. Well,
and I know.
What's your coaching tip of the week? I haven't been coaching all week because I've been having guests with Memorial Day. So tell us what's coming up for you this week.
Well, I'll tell you. I think I told Renee a little bit earlier, so I'm just gonna kind of tattle without giving any names away. Today I had some really awesome clients who were really, really beating themselves up about not being perfect and about thinking that I wouldn't want to see them because they just don't have their crap together, to summarize it. And so we just talked about what that really means. It's this because it's, when we're on this kind of journey, if you have to come see me and we restart 80 times, good to go. They showed up today. They showed up. It was important enough for them to show up. So that was the first win right there. And if you're focusing just on everything negative instead of the goods, and it's a one day at a time, it's a build. And let's talk about all the things that we can do. And so, for example, we're going to probably have to do shows on them. But one person was feeling really bad because their kids are sitting in the backyard eating popsicles. And so I've said, you can make popsicles. You can make any kind of popsicles you want. You want an orange drink and vanilla drink mixed together, you got creamsicles. You want to make freezers or popsicle out of tangerine mangosteen, make them. You want to make some coffee freezies, make them. So sometimes it's just having those conversations about, instead of being focused on what we can't have, hey, if this goal is important to you, don't stop living, but let's talk about ways to give you things where you're going to still enjoy your day, So, yeah, it was.
It's also the way that we talk to ourselves. So if what we're saying to ourselves is, I can't have that, one thing I tell my clients is you can have anything you want. At a certain point, the switch, the cognitive switch in our brain has to go from I can't to I don't really eat that. There came a time in my life, I used to eat a whole pizza myself, all right, all by myself. And there came a time when I just said I don't eat pizza. I didn't say I don't eat pizza because I know that if I eat one pizza, I'm going to eat the whole pizza. Yeah. I just got to the place where I just said, that doesn't really work for me. So yeah, okay. No, I just don't eat pizza. And then, years later, my journey's been many years, 20, 25 years. But years later, I don't even desire a piece of pizza. And it, I know that I'm not going to feel great afterwards. My digestion's going to be icky. Yeah. So then, that's another whole choice unto itself. But if all you're doing this for is, a birthday party or a wedding or a this or a that. That's the wrong answer to changing your lifestyle. So understanding that, you know, you're watching these shows because you want to get some ideas on cooking, but hopefully it's because you want to permanently change your lifestyle. Yeah. And you know, that's what we're really here to inspire you to do.
And I'm going to be really honest. It's a self-serving process for me as well, because I'm still on this journey. I am still like, it's still like, so it's not that it's, you know, done and over and it's a one-time thing. I have to practice this because it's really, it's a sustainability long term. It's a challenge. And, you know, one of the clients that I had today, she said something that it really spoke volumes to me. And so one of the really neat things about clients is they're always teaching you something. So one of the things that she said was, I was in a real denial about having a food problem, having a sugar and carb problem, she said, because I kept telling myself, hey, I'm not on TLC's my 600-pound life. So I'm not that overweight. So I don't have, you know, I don't have a problem. So she was, you know, saying like, she recognized that vicious circle of, I really do have a problem, but I kept telling myself because I'm only this much overweight instead of this much overweight, that it's really not a problem. She said, but of course it's a problem, and it's a problem that, you know, I keep revisiting, I can't get through, I get stuck on. And so it was that was like her own, you know, her own moment of realizing what was really going on. And it was really good, actually. Yeah.
It's a personal choice. It's a daily, minute by minute personal choice. I mean, yep. You know, this last weekend there were 10 of us here. We were out by the pool. Some people were, you know, having sugary popsicles. Some people were having, you know, sugary drinks. Some people were having pasta and what have you. And I don't feel like I can have any of those things. I just take a look at my day and I go like, okay, I know that we're going to go out to dinner tonight, or I know that we're going to have a party and we're going to have a bunch of people over. I know that we're going to do this and that. So I will save kind of like, I'll have my one thing and then, you know, keep it together the rest of the time. I'll get up in the morning and have something light and, you know, some scrambled eggs or maybe some avocado on them. And then maybe at lunchtime, I'll have a salad by the pool and making delicious stuff. But then, you know, we went over and we had barbecue at someone's house. Yeah, well, the barbecue definitely had barbecue sauce on it, and that was fine. I had a piece of chicken, and, you know, I didn't have to have 3 plates full. So it's, you know, some of it's just mindful eating too, and those are all learned skills. So when we say to ourselves, I don't know how to do that, or what have you, you just learn how to do it. And I'll tell you, the way that I learned how to mindfully eat was number one, I used to read, well, I still read a lot, but I read about mindful eating, and this is back in like the, I don't know, early 90s, I guess, or mid 90s. And I would literally put my fork down in between each bite. And I would have to take my hand off of it, you know, and then put it down and then take my hand off of it. And I would make myself chew before I picked up my fork again. That's how I literally taught myself mindful eating, because I was like, you know. So there's just little things
as much as you can. Learning how to not do that. Yeah. I still, like, for weeks now, I have been referencing it's okay to be hungry. Like, it's okay to know what that feeling is. I think it's also really okay to realize that even if there's food left on your plate, but you're full, stop. Just stop.
Yeah, stop eating. Exactly. Put it in the garbage can, whatever. Yeah. Karen, I like what Karen says. She says it's a lifelong journey, and we just have to learn to enjoy the ride. Yeah, thank you for those words, Karen, because I agree. You have to learn to enjoy this part of the process, and if you don't enjoy this part of the process, you know, I hate to say this, but you will not be successful with your long-term weight maintenance. So it's really wrapping yourself around that this is your life, this is who you are. And I've had clients sit in my office and be like, you know, I just, why is this happening to me? And I'm like, it's not just happening to you, it's happening to 99% of all people. There's like a 1% factor of people that can just do whatever they want for the rest of their lives, you know. And honestly, the people that got away with eating burgers until they're 40, they have the hardest time ever because they've never actually had to keep control of themselves, you know, and then it's just miserable, you know. So honestly, I think you're better off when you kind of always have to watch yourself, because it just becomes part of your lifestyle.
Yep.
So, all right, you guys, Dee, it's been awesome. And, you know, as usual, we love not only sharing great recipes with you, but great tips. And we love to hear your responses. If you have a question, put it in the comments section. If you are not subscribed to our newsletter and you want these recipes, just type newsletter and they will come to you. If you're watching us in the replay, put #replay. And we will see you next Wednesday. I think 4:30 is going to be our time. So that's 4:30 on the West Coast, 7:30 on the East Coast, and all the different time frames on all of the places in between.
5:30 Mountain Standard Time for you Canadians.
Well, and for some Americans too.
Well, true, true.
All right, you guys, have a super week, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.
Sounds great. Bye, everybody.